Boys, it's Chins. Bilal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim is coming up this weekend, and this is like a high-key good Apex card. There's a lot of really interesting fights, a lot of good matchups. The co-main's great. This should actually be a really fun fight here. Let me show my mouse there. We get to see Matt Schnell get slimed out on live television once again. Bryce Mitchell's fighting, so it should be pretty fun. Iwa Baranowski, Marcus McGee, Bruno Silva, Edgar Chairez should be a banger. Brito and Levitt, and don't kill me for saying this, but we even have a pretty fun women's MMA fight here. Priscilla Cachoeira is always in bangers. So, should be a really good fight. Let's get right into it. Really good fight. Really good card. Let's get into it, starting with Caitlin Souza versus Ariana Carnelosi. I'm picking Caitlin Souza by decision. Moving on, Jaisla Chavez versus Junasi Dubin. I believe this is the lady that just got fucking smoked, right? Yeah, she got head kicked by Carly Judas. I'm picking Jaisla Chavez by TKO. All right, the real start of the card: Jordan Levitt versus Joe Anderson Brito. Brito? I used to say Brito, but Annika always says Brito. I'm saying Brito, actually. I'm going to say Brito. Joe Anderson Brito, I think, is going to be able to keep the fight on the feet, keep it standing. I think Jordan Levitt is probably going to be able to maybe use his strength and get him down, maybe a little bit early in the fight, but Brito has so much strength, so much physical power. He'll be able to keep it upright. And Levitt is not much bigger than Brito, like he was against Yadir Delvai in his last fight. So I really do think that Brito is going to be able to just use that strength that he has and the similar size of Levitt to keep the fight standing early when Levitt shoots for takedowns. And if he keeps it standing, I have no doubt that with the amount of power, he has bazookas in his fucking hands, Brito. If he lands flush on Levitt, who doesn't have the greatest chin, but definitely has like a rangy kick-based style, who's harder to reach for sure, it only takes one with him though. I'm going to be picking Brito by round 2, round 3 TKO. I'm not like uber confident in it because we've seen Brito, get beaten by grapplers, people like William Gomez, for example, who have, put him up against the fence, struck with him a little bit and then clinched with him a lot. I feel like that it could go that way for Levitt, but for the most part, I'm pretty confident that Brito at some points can be able to break and find a few minutes on the feet to just start fucking letting bombs go on Levitt. So I'm picking Brito round 2, round 3 TKO. Moving on, Chelsea Chandler and Priscilla Cachoeira. I'm picking Priscilla Cachoeira by TKO in rounds 2, just because I think Chelsea Chandler just got nuked, right? Oh yeah, Jocelyn Edwards killed her. Huh. All right, cool. That's what I'm going for. Bruno Silva and Edgar Chairez. This whole stretch here is like all fights I actually really give a shit about, so This card is fucking good, man. Why is shit like this in the Apex? Just switch the co-main with the main. You can put this in any arena. This is a solid fucking card. Edgar Chairez and Bruno Silva should be fight of the night. Sleeper fight of the night right here. I'm a big fan of Bruno Silva. I glazed him endlessly in my flyweight rankings breakdown. And I just think he's a really underrated fighter. He's a crazy finisher. He has insane striking. Not insane striking, but insane power, rather, and like really just snappy, quick and speed, and he just throws bombs. He throws overheads like it's UFC 5 and he's spamming fucking overheads. Like that's literally what he's doing. Overheads, bro. What is up with me today? I'm watching too much tennis. Overhands. Bruno Silva's entire style is just fucking throwing overhand left and right hooks. I think a guy like Edgar Chairez, we've seen a lot of his striking in the UFC. Specifically, we've seen it against Joshua Van. Joshua Van got wobbled by him a couple times. They had an absolute war in the sphere. Edgar Chairez is fucking tough, and he's really well-rounded as well. I would even go as far to say that they're very similar. It's just that Bruno Silva has a way more destructive style on the feet. Edgar Chairez definitely has the edge on the ground, but it wouldn't be by a lot if you ask me. Regardless, I think this fight's going to go to a decision, but I do think Bruno Silva's going to have the bigger moments. I think he's going to be able to, neutralize Chairez's game on the ground, if not for, a majority of the fight, maybe later on, because Bruno Silva does tend to gas Maybe Bruno Silva gets taken down in the 3rd round or something, maybe loses then. But I do think Bruno Silva comes out strong, wins round 1, wins round 2, maybe drops Chairez 1 or 2 times, and then wins a 29-28 decision. And I think it'll get fight of the night. I think this is probably the fight to watch on the card if you're looking for just action purely and you don't really care about the fighters fighting. So moving on, Marcus McGee versus John Yanis. John Yanis is not the worst fighter, but he's also not the best fighter, and Marcus McGee is a fighter that I kind of rate fairly highly. I think he showed a lot of ability against Petr Yan. He looked really good early in that fight. Who doesn't against Petr? But at the same time, that loss has aged very, very well. He's a really good fighter, and he has incredible knockout power. I'm going to be picking Marcus McGee by round 1 TKO here. I just don't think John Yanis is equipped to fight a guy like this at a level like McGee, who is clearly being given a layup, and somebody who already has experience fighting the champion of the division. That champion is one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in the lower weight classes, and he looked pretty damn good against him. I'm picking Marcus McGee round 1 TKO. If he doesn't get that, I would consider it an underperformance, I guess, a bad performance. Iwo Baraniewski versus Junior Tafa. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Is it crazy to think that Junior Tafa is gonna win this fight? Only because of what we saw against, what was it, Ibo Aslan? That crazy fight, yeah. I don't rate Ibo Aslan highly at all. Okay? I really don't. But he put him through hell. And I know he won the fight. And you can say the other way around, like, oh, he showed a great chin. Being able to get up from a guy who hits as hard as Aslan when Aslan is at his peak, right? Because he does hit hard, even though I don't think he's a great fighter. And he came back and won that fight, and he showed he has a chin, he showed he has heart. Like, I totally understand that reasoning. But Junior Tafa is a pretty damn good kickboxer, and he has good counters, and he's somebody who I think could take advantage of the balls to the wall style of Iwo Baraniewski. That being said, Iwo is not a pure striker, and I think if this were a pure striking match, I would pick Junior Tafa, like, fairly confidently. Because Tafa doesn't usually lose on the feet. It's typically when he's on the ground, when he's taken to the ground, that's when he gets fucked up. Iwo actually has good grappling, and that is the difference maker in this fight to me. If you're a betting man, plus 215 on Tafa is actually not a bad number. However, Iwo bringing in the grappling is probably going to make all of the difference in this fight. I'm fucked up today. Holy shit, I'm fucked up today. Why am I not able to speak? I'm picking Iwo by round 1 submission. I do think he's going to be able to ragdoll Junior Tafa. Maybe he'll have a moment on the feet or two, Tafa. And I do believe that if he can catch him early, he'll get him out of there. I think that's his only way of winning, but I think it's a very possible way. But I do think Iwo is just too tough. I think even if he gets dropped, he'll be able to bring in the grappling and then submit Junior Tafa in round 1. How does he usually win when it comes to submission? He's only got 2. Armbar and what? Just armbar? I'll pick a rear naked choke. Fuck it. Matt Schnell, Alessandro Costa. What are we fucking doing, bro? When did Matt Schnell retire? He retired after losing to Cody Durden. Why would you come back? I know you need the money. That's obviously what it is. You're getting chinned. I will say this. If Matt Schnell had a chin, he's actually a really dangerous boxer. It's just the fact that he does box, like, that's like his main, the main part of his style. I know he's got good grappling, but he is primarily a boxer, I would say. He's actually a really good boxer. And I would pick him in a fight against Alessandro Costa if you knew that Matt Schnell was not going to get chinned. Because I do think that Costa also has a kind of a sus chin and some defensive incapabilities that he's shown in his career. Although he looked good in his last fight and his defense looked a lot more improved and his pressure was insane. I do think just as a result of Schnell not having a chin, Costa's just going to be able to pressure him, push him up against the fence, maybe land a nice 1-2 down the middle right on the chin and put Matt Schnell out cold in round 1, round 2. Picking a lot of finishes, I know. What, I picked like 4 or 5 fucking finishes in a row. I think I picked like only finishes, actually. Fucking whatever. Oh no, I picked Bruno Silva by decision. But, you know, I do think that this card is very heavy in the finishing potential. I'm picking Alessandro Costa by round 1, round 2, flatline KO on Matt Schnell. But Matt Schnell's got a little bit of a chance here if he can just wade away from the power, which he's not good at. Obviously, that's why he's here in his career. Was it 130 catch weight? That's interesting. Anyways, yeah, Costa round 1, round 2. Flatline KO. Moving on, Bryce Mitchell and Santiago Luna. This is a Santiago Luna that is coming in on short notice, I think a week's notice, week and a half. And a Bryce Mitchell who has looked really fucking good at bantamweight. His pace has not slowed down. If anything, it's gotten greater. And against bantamweights, where he is a lot bigger than some of these guys, he's able to, you know, really dominate people. Kind of like how he was earlier in his career in the UFC, when I don't know about anybody else. I thought Bryce Mitchell low-key could have been a sleeper for, you know, being a top 5 fighter or even fighting for a championship early in his UFC career, when he was basically like Colby Covington at 145 and he was just smoking everybody. Then he fought Ilya, and, you know, the rest is, we know the rest. Then he fought Josh Emmett and moved down. But Bryce Mitchell is really good at this weight class, and Santiago Luna is a fun test if he wasn't on short notice. Because you're 21 years old, about 22, and you are completely inexperienced against a guy like Bryce Mitchell. I haven't watched Luna's entire career, but I've watched a good amount of his fights, and he hasn't fought a cardio mogger the likes of Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell has one of the best gas tanks in the history of the lower weight classes in the sport. And that is objective, and he doesn't need to be this all-time great fighter, but his gas tank certainly is at this weight class one of the greatest we've ever seen. And I do think that he's going to be able to place that pressure on Luna, and I don't think Luna's really going to be able to do anything. I actually rate Luna fairly highly as a prospect. I think he's really good, and I think he's looked really good in his fights that he's had in the UFC. And at the end of the day, I think it can be close. You know, maybe round 1 Luna drops him, kind of like Bryce versus, was it Saeed in his bantamweight debut? Yeah, it was. Saeed dropped him bad, you know, but Bryce is so tough, and he came right back and just destroyed him as the rounds went on. I think it can be a similar fight. I think maybe Luna wins round 1. You know, he's able to, you know, keep the range from Bryce, but he's probably going to slow down a tad bit, you know, with the pressure that Bryce is putting on him. And even if he drops Bryce in the first round and wins it, I think Bryce is just going to come onto him in the second. Whoa, hold on. Whoa. I think Bryce is going to place pressure on him starting in the second round and just start to wear him out and probably win a decision, 29-28. That's what I'm thinking. I think Bryce Mitchell wins that fight by decision. Hard in the first rounds, but fairly easy in the last 2. Moving on, Faris Ziam versus Tom Nolan. Now, I've seen a lot of people online talk about Tom Nolan is being overlooked in this fight, but you really have to look at his career in the UFC. I know that before he got into the UFC, he was a fucking killer, and he was extremely hyped up. And then he got knocked out by Mota, was it? Nicholas Mota. I picked Mota in that fight. That was fucking crazy. It was a really big upset when it happened. But ball knowers knew Tom Nolan's chin wasn't that great. And it has really gotten exposed from then to now. I mean, he's getting dropped every once in a while. Now he's getting stunned. He has bad defense because he's so tall, and he's keeping his hands down. He's just not used to... He's not used to defending, I guess. He needs to make that a habit. He needs to work on his defense in the gym and hold his hands up. But he struggles from what I like to call tall man syndrome in MMA. He's like Sean Woodson. You know, he's so tall and upright in his stance, and he holds his hands down so low that he is so open to get knocked out. And all these guys get knocked out eventually. Sean Woodson got knocked out by Dan Ige. You know, even Randy Brown has had this problem before in his career. He's gotten smoked a lot by people because he just doesn't have good defense. Faris Ziam's going to knock out Tom Nolan again. And it's just going to be very It's going to be very simply because of Tom Nolan's lack of defense. He just doesn't have a great chin. And if he did have good defense, I think he'd be able to beat a guy like Ziem because he is dangerous. Tom Nolan is a very, very dangerous fighter. And he's young. But he does have like decent UFC experience at this point. But Faris Ziem is on a hell of a win streak. And he's beating people in crazy ways. I believe his one loss in the UFC is to Terrence McKinney, which, sure, it's not like the greatest loss you can have. It hasn't really aged the greatest, but Terrence McKinney is still pretty good. And I don't think Tom Nolan shares the qualities of a Terrence McKinney to be able to get Faris Ziem out of there early. And I think Faris is one of those guys that builds on a fight as it goes on and really starts to look good, after the first few minutes of round one. Maybe Tom Nolan has a moment early because, again, he is dangerous, but I'm picking Faris Ziem here by knockout in round 2. Moving on to the co-main, the best fight on the card, arguably, as far as matchup goes. Brendan Allen versus Edmen Shahbazyan. This is a really fucking good fight, and it's a really intriguing fight, too, because you get to see what could be, finally, the culmination of Edmen Shahbazyan's skills in his career over the last few years. Albeit, I do think it is a little bit of a weird fight because I don't think Shahbazyan deserves to be fighting in the top 5. But aside from the Gerald Meerschaert loss, which he's had, which looked really fucking bad, he has shown improvements from, that bad streak that he went on a few years ago where he lost to Derek Brunson and, Imavov and Hermanson, right? He's on a good win streak. And Brendan Allen has a weakness when he's fighting guys that are in Extreme Couture. They have his playbook down. They have the Brendan Allen playbook, rather, down to a T. Brendan Allen arguably lost to Chris Curtis in the rematch. He got knocked out by Chris Curtis in their first fight, got knocked out by Sean Strickland. Shahbazyan has a style that is probably really fucking great for Brendan Allen, if you want me to be real. Brendan Allen, sure, he's kind of a suffocating grappler early on. He has a shit gas tank. He didn't show it against RDR because, if anything, that was his weapon there. But I am not going to act like that's the new norm for Brendan Allen because, realistically speaking, Brendan Allen, when he has to work against anybody, and he didn't have to work against RDR, that was a very one-sided fight. When he has to work, really work, look at the Imavov fight, look at the Fluffy fight, he'll win the first round or two. But he's going to wilt in the later rounds, and he's not going to look really good. He's really not going to look that good. And Edmen Shahbazyan, I think, is going to be able to, stuff the takedowns of Brendan Allen early, keep it standing. And on the feet, there's no secret. Shahbazyan is probably better than Allen. Although I will say Allen has underrated striking in a sense that it is perfect for his style. It's, he'll lunge at you and he'll throw these big strikes, and he doesn't have the biggest power, but he's got a good jab. And it's really good at getting him where he wants to be. He's got good pressure. He'll clinch you up against the fence and he'll wear you out there. But he wears himself out doing that. So I'm going to be picking Edmen Shahbazyan by decision. I think he's going to have big moments later on in the fight. Maybe he's losing round 1. Maybe he's losing round 2. But he has a big moment at the end of round 2, steals it. Round 3, all him on the feet while Brendan Allen is slightly gassed. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that Shahbazyan's going to pull this off. I know it's probably the unpopular opinion. I just think matchup-wise, it's a really, really good matchup for him. And Brendan Allen is somebody who I don't personally think is top 5 level. So I'm picking Edmen Shahbazyan by 29-28 decision here. Should be a pretty fun fight, but could also be boring. You never know. It's Brendan Allen. So moving on to the main event, Belal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim. I'm picking Belal Muhammad by decision here. I was going to say maybe 49, 46, 48, 47. Gabriel Bonfim is a really good finisher, but he stops at that. He has had a lot of problems in his career with fading in the later rounds. He has never been proven across 5 rounds in his career against a high-level opponent, and Belal Muhammad is by far the best fighter he has ever fought, and probably ever will fight. Belal Muhammad is still at a level where he could be champion. Not that I think he would ever be champion again. That's not what I'm trying to say. But, you've seen how Jack Della lost to Islam. And who's to say that Belal couldn't come back in a rematch against Jack Della and to do just that? Belal Muhammad is an elite grappler. And he puts on an elite pace. He has an elite gas tank. He is extremely physically strong. underratedly so. I think nobody talks about how powerful Bilal Muhammad is when it comes to picking people up and slamming them and just being able to fucking destroy you against the fence and ragdoll you. Gabriel Bonfim does not fare well against pressure, and we saw that against his only UFC loss, Nicolas Dalby. I picked Nicolas Dalby to win that fight by finish, and that's exactly what happened. It's because Nicolas Dalby puts a pressure on you, and Stephen Thompson did that against Gabriel Bonfim, one of the worst robberies in the last few years. Stephen Thompson put a pressure on Gabriel Bonfim and counterstruck him, later in the fight just perfectly, and won that fight very clearly, in my opinion. But Bonfim somehow got the robbery win, and that's why he is in this position. His last fight was Randy Brown. That's really his best win in the UFC. That's really his best win in his career. And Randy Brown is not a good fighter. I do not rate Randy Brown highly at all. I think he's chinny. I think that a lot of his fights, have been against fighters that, a lot of his wins rather, have been against fighters that are really not that great. If you look at Randy Brown's entire career, all of his wins are against fighters who are just not that great, and every single time he fights somebody that's even remotely good, he loses, and oftentimes he loses pretty badly. Gabriel Bonfim, realistically speaking, his best win is Randy Brown, and that's a red flag. While I do legitimately rate his submission skills, and his guillotine is definitely a problem for a guy like Bilal, who likes to, put his neck under the arm, and really go, he really dedicates himself to double legs and single legs. I trust that Bilal has the level of grappling, anti-submission skills to, find himself in a guillotine perhaps, and then get right out of it, because he is that good. Maybe he gets laced up in a guillotine, but he'll pick Bonfim up when he's committing to it, by the legs, because it would be a double leg, and he'll slam him on the ground, he'll end up inside, and he'll get out of the guillotine. That's what I truly think Bilal Muhammad can do to Bonfim if he tries any of his submission skills. I worry about a Darce. He's got a good Darce, and I honestly do kind of worry about the stand-up, because Bilal is getting old. He's taken a lot of damage at this point in his career, and he has gotten knocked out previously. I can see Bonfim catching Bilal, but he is one of those guys to get right back up, and he's one of those guys who is tough enough to stick in a fight and get right back into it. And his gas tank is so great that even in a in a 5-round fight especially, he's gonna make Bonfim struggle in the later rounds if he can get there. If you like Bonfim in this fight, genuinely, I understand, because again, he's a lethal finisher. He really is. He's a great finisher. But at the end of the day, Bilal Muhammad is just the best fighter he's fought by a long shot, and I feel like it's the pick. Bilal Muhammad is just, his pressure's going to be too much. I think maybe round 1, Bonfim looks good on the feet. He does have a little bit of a jab here and there. Sometimes he gets gun shy in his fights, Bonfim, as well, where his jab won't look that great. And I feel like that's a lot of his entries is, through his jab. He's got a good 1-2, some good knees, of course, as we've seen. But a guy like Bilal is going to be pressuring him, and that's going to be new for Bonfim, at least in the sense of he never wins when he gets pressured. If he wins this fight, it would be the first time he's won a fight where he's really gotten pushed, and I don't see it. I think Bilal is one of the ultimate pressure fighters we've ever seen in this division, and I see him dominating him through and through, maybe after losing a close round 1. 49-46, Bilal Muhammad. Pretty easy. There we go. This has been Chinned, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please comment, like, and sub. See you guys in the next one. Little bit of a late video. Completely forgot that this card was happening. I'm not even gonna lie, but it's not a bad card. So see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.